Hello there, and welcome to what is probably a surprise edition of Craig's critique, of which I have obviously not done many videos in recent history. But there has been something that has kind of caught my attention in regards to the state of certain parts of cinema at this stage. And I did feel I wanted to bring it forward as an opinion and as an interesting point of view. So basically, this is going to be a video about the summer exploits, the summer cinematic exploits or films of 2019, and I will include Endgame in those exploits because even though it was technically a spring film, it has run so much into summer. You are a summer film Endgame, so you are being included here. But basically, as you can probably tell by the title of this video, is that I just don't think this summer has been absolutely any good whatsoever in terms of creativity. Um, with exceptions, which I will talk about. But in terms of, as we know, with any blockbuster season, obviously any summer blockbuster season, there's always going to be good blockbusters and bad blockbuster films. It comes with the territory. As we all know with summer blockbusters, the main aim of those studios making those films is to make the money, so therefore you're going to try and attract as big an audience as possible, so therefore you will take less risks than is normally applicable in many films. So that is always expected, that's always a caveat, and I'm always aware of that. But I do believe there can be creativity still be involved in those more family orientated films that aren't being exploited or properly utilised this summer. I just think we've fallen back into extremely safe summer cinema. The best examples I can do is just doing straight comparisons. So the best examples I can say, last summer I thought was quite a great year for sort of big family films or even big adult films. In the example of Mission Impossible Fallout and Deadpool 2, taking huge risks with what their material is and sort of what they're trying to do as cinematic pieces. And even in the sort of more family orientated areas, that is Incredibles 2 and Avengers Infinity War, where you are more trying to appeal to almost every age possible. I thought there were some great films in there, and I thought they succeeded quite well in terms of being high, really, not just good watermarks, really high watermarks for summer cinema of what you expect as spectacle and comedy and action and things like that. That is what you want for your summer cinema, I would always tend to advocate. So when I was running down basically the films of this year, 2019, and I will be including Endgame in that as well because it has run so much into the summer, and it is technically a summer film, even though accurately it's probably not because it was released in May, wasn't it? But it's made so much money, and I won't go over anymore. You are in the summer film area, Endgame. But when I was looking at the actual big film releases that I had been to see, and even the ones I hadn't been to see, so we can start with Endgame, but I will put that in a little side part itself with Spider-Man Far From Home. The rest of them, I would tend to say, of the films that are meant to be making the money for studios, either disappointment or not. What do you think? Definitely disappointment, I would say, because when you look at the films, for example, from your studios other than Disney, I will go into the Disney stuff in a little bit later. When you look at things like Men in Black International, X-Men Dark Phoenix, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, Godzilla King of the Monsters. There's probably one or two or more still missing. There's a few animated ones I didn't actually see myself in terms of The Secret Life of Pets 2 and Angry Birds 2. So those are the films that studios are expecting to make their money in and get audience to go see them. Of those, other than the two animated films, I thought pretty much all of those, particularly Men in Black International and X-Men Dark Phoenix, were damn poor. And obviously that's not unsurprising given certain things going on, but that's a worry I think going forward with the way that studios are setting themselves up with trying to set themselves up with franchises and streaming and so on and so forth. But what's more concerning, I would even say as well, is the Disney output this summer. And like I say, I'm not including Far From Home because it's not a Disney property, even though it's in the Disney MCU. And given what we also know now as well regarding Spider-Man at this moment in time. And I will be commenting on Endgame as well separately. But when you look at they've had 3 films, I believe, haven't they, Disney, in this summer? And they are, Aladdin and The Lion King are the best examples of this. Basically, those are 2 films that are billion-dollar pictures. And they are the safest of safe films I have ever seen in a summer blockbuster season. Yes, you are basing it on a brilliant or really good work to begin with, so it's a film where I can understand where they're not trying to take chances with something like that, mess a legacy or something like that. Although I would reckon, if you're going to remake this film anyway, just remake it to a new creative mean. Don't do the exact same film again, which is exactly what The Lion King was. And I find the reviews of Lion King quite interesting because this is a film that exists already. This film has basically just remade scenes using CGI with almost a pretty, I would say, what you could have like 95%, 90% of the same dialogue and scenes from and images from the original Lion King. That is a film that is lacking in creativity immensely. I feel very passionately about that Lion King one because I came out of that film feeling a bit depressed, to be honest. Um, because I thought, what was the point of that other than to be a moneymaker? And I know, like I said, it's a caveat I say at the beginning of this video regarding summer films. All these sort of films are meant to be moneymakers, but there should be at least something there for somebody to hang the hat on and say, this is why we're remaking this. And don't give me this is a live action version of The Lion King. It is not. It is it's a CGI version of The Lion King. Therefore, it is another animated film. There you go, controversial, not. But it's my point more regarding the summer films is that I feel it speaks more to a broader issue of what's going on in the industry generally right now. Because even the films, two films I will bring up, which are interesting films that have made money that we would not normally expect to make the money they have made in the summer, which I really did like. They were John Wick 3 and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, those are two films that have basically let their creators go wild, I would say, with their premises. They've because Tarantino is obviously notorious for basically having final cut. This film has got his final cut. That is a film that is purely of a creator. So regardless of whether I like particular things about it and not like particular things about it, that is a film that's a filmmaker who's been allowed completely, good or bad, to make the film they wanted to make. In the sense of John Wick 3, this is a bunch of creators that are basically kind of grown from an initial simple premise to go, we're now going even more batshit and crazy with what we want to do. Therefore, it's even more entertaining. Those two films have made money, and I think they have made money also in part, not because obviously because I think they have got good qualities about it, but good qualities don't always result in a money making industry, as we know. I mean, as I said, Aladdin and The Lion King are billion-dollar films, and they are essentially, oh my god, they're 90% the same films as their animated counterparts. So yes, those two, John Wick and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, have made money, particularly domestically in the US. But I also think they've made money as well because of the lack of creativity and vibrancy in the mainstream blockbuster films. So they've kind of been made into counter blockbuster films, John Wick and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because of and the fact that other than the Disney films, all those other films I mentioned regarding like Godzilla and Detective Pikachu, sorry, I'm just suddenly drawing a blank. X-Men, Dark Phoenix, Men in Black. They've all performed very, particularly Men in Black and I think it's extremely poorly critically, and Detective Pikachu and Godzilla, middling critical receptions to modest, if disappointing box office returns for those respective studios making those films. So these are studios right now, I think, are finding themselves stuck in a position of how far do we allow our creators to do something and make something, and trying to keep things simple and as broad as possible to make the money. And that's where I feel Disney come into this play. And unfortunately, the model that Disney have got right now is extremely successful commercially. I mean, this is the most successful year for billion-dollar film properties that we have seen in any year of cinema ever. So technically, you could say this is the most successful year in the history of cinema, financially, if not, but definitely not creatively. And unfortunately, that would tend to set a trend, you would think, and that's whatever's hot makes everybody else want to copy. What is everyone trying to do right now? They're all trying to copy what Disney are doing. They're trying to gather franchises, create streaming platforms, create content, but stuff that is safe and people will want to watch. So therefore, the creative, like I say, I keep going back to this creative film creativity. It's something that is extremely lacking and worrying in the industry right now. I would even stretch to a point where my concern goes further than just the blockbustery sort of films, because of the model that Disney have got in terms of how much of the market they've got as well. If you were to go look at this history of cinema in terms of what sort of area Disney are trying to look at for making films in, they are looking to make family films, kid films and family films. They're not trying to make anything generally other than that. If they can attempt to not do it, basically, to make the money. So, in retrospect to where the whole film audience is, they are, unfortunately, they've suddenly found that there seems to be not a kiddifying of certain aspects of what they're trying to do in terms of their more family films, but they've kind of tapped into something where they can definitely get both aspects of the audience. But what's more worrying is that when you look at the history of cinema, that is just a pinch of what cinema is the kid and family area, isn't it? So, I am getting round to a more general point, I promise you. But the perfect example of this is the fact that Disney have obviously acquired Fox, and they have many, many parts in Fox. And the one thing you could not criticise Fox for was taking chances on things. They made some rubbish blockbuster films, they occasionally made some good blockbuster films, but they definitely took chances in other areas of cinema. I mean, the perfect example of this is Fox Searchlight Studios that they had in their domain. That was basically a studio that was allowed to basically make awards sort of, not awards bait, because that's very demeaning, but you know what I mean when I say that. A different type of quality of film and a different story of film appealing to a different audience. Obviously, that studio is now under the wing of Disney, and I'd be very surprised if reports have already been made regarding to what the Disney acquisition of Fox means for Fox, those aspects of Fox and such. But that is a studio that took chances, and the most notorious one right now is obviously there's a Taika Waititi film, isn't there, in under Fox Searchlight Studios about a musical comedy. Is it about Hitler? Now, this is just me being logical in a sense. Do you think that Disney going forward would allow a studio like Fox Searchlight under their banner of being owned by Disney to make a Nazi comedy? It's worrying, is what I would say, because of what I would also say with the Disneyfying of certain aspects of the Marvel stuff. And I will get into this regarding Endgame now, actually, because, first of all, the reason why the Marvel Cinematic Universe works so well is because there is so many films. So that's why I thought Infinity War was so great. It laid a lot of the groundwork. That tied a lot of characters and nice storylines together. And even though there were certain things going on with characters in Infinity War that you had not particularly seen in one massive instance, you have been pieced together so incredibly well with Infinity War that it gave such a satisfying, for me anyway, and satisfyingly creative film that was presented to a huge general audience. And I will bang this drum forever regarding Infinity War, I have not seen many people talking about Infinity War in terms of where it stands in terms of like previous franchise and such, and trilogies and things like that. But I thought Infinity War is kind of the modern equivalent of Empire Strikes Back in terms of those two films go at a rapid pace. And I promise I won't make this a Infinity War review, but those two films go at such a rapid pace that everything's pieced together. You know exactly what those characters stand for. Every single character in Empire Strikes Back and Infinity War all have moments where they are relevant to the plot and relevant to the story. Nobody's there lingering, thinking, what is that character doing there? They're just here because we've now got them. This is where I'll come to with Endgame, because I thought 70% of what Endgame. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to put a percentage on Endgame because I came out of that film with so many opinions on things, and I felt the creativity, unfortunately, could have gone a particular way if it wasn't maybe hamstrung by trying to please everybody. And that is as simple as I can put it, because you've got such a huge cast of characters that you can't disappoint almost anybody with all those that cast of characters. They took it. You could perceive it be taking a chance with particular one or two characters regarding their ends or the way they have ended up in Endgame. But I thought you could have done it in a more creative way. And in fact, they kind of prepared us for those particular things in the medial building up beforehand, and also in Infinity War to a small degree in terms of the shock value of certain things. So I thought it could have been a lot better done in terms of that Endgame. It is not a bad film, Endgame. It has got so many positives about it as well, but I don't think it is the absolute Hail Mary of the MCU as it has been regarded by a lot of the community. I'm not sipping that Kool-Aid, unfortunately, because I still want something to challenge me. Basically, I want my cinema to challenge me. And maybe that is why I've come out of summer 2019 going, there's been pretty much nothing that's challenged me as a viewer, maybe other than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with positives and negatives, and John Wick. Every other film I have seen this summer has been definitely disappointing, or to a degree kind of depressing regarding the state of the summer cinema. Maybe this is a blip. Maybe this is a blip, and I really hope it is. And I hope it's basically. I even hope, because I love Disney. I want this to be a Disney bad thing, because I bloody sorry, I swear in it. I bloody love it when they do their modern takes on fairy tales. This is going to maybe be surprising given what I've already said. I really like Frozen. I like Moana. I liked Big Hero 6. I liked all those sort of films. That's the sort of just enough creativity on a traditional thing to engage me as a viewer. So Disney, when they do what they do in those particular areas, they're great. But the problem is when you're applying that throughout the whole of their new canon, be it maybe Star Wars and Marvel, and we'll see what we do with the Fox stuff. Which is why I love Last Jedi, because that was actually a film being allowed to take a chance on things, regardless of the negativity afterwards. I thought it was a hugely entertaining and interesting film. But yes, summer 2019 has been kind of disappointing, to put it mildly. And I'm hoping this is a blip. I hope this is basically Disney trying to shore themselves up by going, right, these are sure things, let's get these out, let's make this money. And maybe we can go back to being creative and making good properties again, because remaking every single live action version of your classic animated films is not creative in any way, shape or form, I'm afraid, anymore. I went along a little bit with that interesting stuff at the beginning. Jungle Book was probably the most interesting, but we've hit tipping point. We really have hit tipping point in terms of, I have anyway. As you can probably tell by his expiration. But yeah, I hope, like I say, this is just them trying to show themselves up, Disney. And I hope it's then going back to doing risky creative things again. Not risky, but risky enough so then the other studios then do the same thing, because that's what the other studios are going to do. They're looking at Disney around going, we've got to do exactly the same as Disney. And given the products that they're making right now, Disney, I would wager that is not the model to follow unless you want to make money. And I know this is an industry and it's a business, but it's also art. And I always will try and come down on the side of art. There's a balance being had all the time. I'm very aware of that. But we've got to balance that. Otherwise, we will just get predictable stuff constantly. And I want to fight this fight, damn it. So let's hope this award season and autumn and winter season will be more interesting coming up in the next 6 months, because this last 6 months of cinema has not been good, I would say, in terms of the quality of ratio of good and bad films. There we go, people. I hope you've enjoyed, or not enjoyed, or got something out of my 20-minute or so rant regarding the summer cinema exploits of 2019. Blockbusters otherwise. But there we go. I might call it a summer 2019 Post-Mortem, maybe, or some of cinema, maybe, I don't know. Something like that. There we go. I really hope you've enjoyed watching. If you have watched to the end, I thank you very much. Please do subscribe. I might try and get back into this as much as I can, but it's really got to push me, and this has really caught my passion, I would say. So thank you very much for watching, and I do hope to see and speak to you again as soon as I possibly can. Thank you very much, and goodbye.